welcome to Umbrella's Digital Changemakers podcast series. Today we have a really special guest with us, Patrick Quesnel from Microsoft New Zealand. I've known Patty for over 15 years, and as we all know, Mr. Azure. He was one of the first to introduce Azure services for Microsoft New Zealand and was instrumental in the vision and then bringing to reality the New Zealand Azure data centers known as NZ North. So welcome, Patty.
Thanks, Ian. It's great to be here.
But before we leap into that, do you want to give us an update on just what you're doing at the moment?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Ian. Yeah, I can't believe it's been over 15 years. That's crazy. It makes me feel old, but that's okay. Look, my current role is I actually work across all of Asia from an Azure perspective. Don't say that too fast. But I really are focused on the customer success factor of Microsoft. So how do we help organizations adopt the cloud platform, and what technologies and services do we help them with? How do we unblock those processes if they have any, and provide the best support? So that's cool. I can still be based in New Zealand, but work all across Asia into India and China, Japan, Australia, Korea, etc. It's great.
So Azure is the world's computer.
That's it. Yeah, I think that's the big thing. Like the real exciting thing about New Zealand North being here is we've now connected New Zealand to Azure's world computer. And I think that what does that mean? Well, it doesn't sound like, it's not like the world's computer is here to take over the world. It's there as the world's computer to use and maximize the benefit of it. So now that we're connected directly out of Auckland, then your world's your oyster.
Great. We'll talk a little more about architecture and what it looks like when you're designing solutions across multiple regions. If you could sum up what makes NZ North special in one sentence, or what it's meant for you, what would that be?
Oh, I think there's so many factors. I think the real gem or special factor around NZ North is its sustainability story. The fact that it's 100% carbon free. We signed a large contract with Contact Energy for the Te Huka 3 geothermal sites to produce 51.8, I think it was, megawatts power for New Zealand. So it means we're actually geothermal powered, which is carbon free, and that doesn't mean we're using any other forms of power consumption. And then the 100% water free factor is we're using natural air cooling because we have such a great climate that it is able to use for that. Personally, though, I think the real thing for me was just so proud to see something come to life. It's been super surreal. Like, it was 4 or 5 years ago that we built the business case to ask Satya Nadella, our CEO, to bring New Zealand North here, bring Azure and Microsoft Cloud services here. Then, yeah, I think we just it's been a super surreal story, and great to see the wins we've had already.
Yeah. And it was a huge investment. It was a $500 million investment, $50 million.
I'd probably go even higher than that, to be honest, but yeah.
Wow. And was it $50 million just in fiber optic connectivity?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was over that amount because, like it or not, we didn't quite have the full fiber capability that in Auckland from our site selections to provide the right fiber redundancy, because we offer N3 redundancy, which is 3 different fiber connections from each site and different directions, not the same direction or down the same street like some offerings in the market. So it's been really, really good to see the investment into New Zealand as well.
We've had some questions come in when people heard we were talking to you today, and one from a customer in South Island. And the question was, why did you put 3 data centers within a stone's throw of each other in Auckland?
Sure. Yeah, good question. I mean, I know, though, I can't throw a stone several kilometres, but I get your point. I get the question. Look, it comes down to a couple of key factors, really. Like there is global best practice backed up by Gartner that says a minimum of 3 data center locations, multiple data centers per location, is required for the best resiliency, redundancy, high availability, and latency. And when you combine that, then you have the factors you have to be able to provide that to your organization. So you've got that 99.99% SLA, which is there to help you with reliability. The second part of it is our site selection. So why did we choose Auckland versus, I don't know, Invercargill, for example? We've got over 500 factors that we look at to consider our sites. And then we had over 30 engineers over 6 months looking at all the site options across New Zealand in terms of where we would go. And so really it comes down to things like, where's a floodplain? Where's a flight path? What about connectivity? What about risk factors? Like, for example, we wouldn't put a site on the closer north shore to Auckland and then another one south of Auckland because you'd have to use the harbour bridge, and that's a single point of failure for connection. So you've got to factor in all those kind of points. And so the most stable, the least floodplain, the least flight path, and all those other factors I can't list here today is how we came down to the 3 locations that are spread across west, central, and north of Auckland.
So huge investment, time, money, people, resources.
Absolutely.
For New Zealand, I think it's a fantastic story. If you think back, what is the coolest or most unexpected thing you've seen with the NZ North going live? The wow moment for you.
Yeah.
You reflected and thought, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, I think that there's 2 parts. Is for me, when I think about that, is a lot of people talk about data sovereignty and Māori data sovereignty, and one of the things we were trying to understand is how can we make that work for local iwi.
No.
And when Te Tumu Paura signed up as an anchor customer, that was a real wow moment for us because they built a guide for data sovereignty framework for Māori data and how you can use New Zealand in public cloud, as in Microsoft services, to advance and support their whakapapa and go from there forward to help their organisation as well. So they're leveraging New Zealand North and our technologies and connecting AI to that technology. So that was a super big wow factor for us.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's bringing together both cultural, environmental, and business in one.
Yeah.
It's a great story.
It is. And then I think the other part is that we have what's called ISVs or software vendors that, provide services to organizations globally, but we didn't have that presence in New Zealand until we opened up our cloud locations. And so seeing the likes of Veeam, AvePoint, NetApp, and those other software vendors, the global software vendors going, hey, yeah, we're going to put our services in New Zealand so we can provide that service closer to our customers was a huge win. So it's, again, more investment opening the door into New Zealand. It really is opening up capabilities for all levels of business, small to large enterprise.
Awesome. One of the things that we've been really focused on, and I guess from an umbrella perspective of what are we doing at a national level, and one of the things that we've looked at is that New Zealand as a country, as an organization, needs to increase our productivity, right?
Sure.
Grow our productivity.
Yep.
And one of the things is we are a country of SMB or small to medium businesses. And how do you think that the NZ North opening Azure services can benefit our SMB customers, colleagues?
Yeah, I mean, I think the great advantage that SMB has is agility. Right. I mean, at least, okay, you've got less people, maybe less resources, funding, etc., but you've got agility. And those who are agile are able to leverage innovation and technology. So from there, it's really a case of what is your open mindset to the opportunity? You're only really limited by your own mindset as to what you could do with a public cloud offering, connecting it to Azure as the world's computer, leveraging OpenAI in Australia, but keeping your data locally managed under New Zealand data law, how you can leverage that. And so I suppose that the first thing that SMB should think about anyone actually, not just SMB, but anyone, if you're looking to leverage public cloud or use it in more advanced, innovative fashion, especially from an AI perspective, we kind of have a 3-pronged approach that we provide guidance for. And that's centered on cybersecurity. Obviously, you need to have that cybersecurity foundation, right? You've got to have your governance, your compliance, and your secure policies set up, ready to go, using the right technologies. And unfortunately, look, the bad actors are using AI. So you should use AI in security to compete against your bad actors, which Microsoft offers today. And we invest in over $50 billion in security a year just to sort of grow and transform that offering as a security company. And then once you've got that ready and that foundation, obviously, work with Umbrella to help build that out, is just start adopting Copilot. Well, that's the first step to understanding how you can use AI and technology, and just push it to its limits. Really empower your employees to leverage it as much as they can, and then you'll see how you can improve your business processes or bend the curve of innovation to really take that next step of, okay, now that we understand what we could do, then we could build our own solutions, and using Azure. So you've just got to take that little stepping stone journey, and I think SMBs right for it.
What's your insights or advice around when you're designing solutions across multiple regions?
Yeah.
So you may have data residing in New Zealand, but using tools or processes offshore.
Yeah.
What's your insights there?
Oh, look, I think the first thing is we know that organizations, again, particularly SMB, are adopting a hybrid cloud approach, right? And so a multi-region design will factor into that as well. And by multi-region, what do I mean by that? Well, connecting your on-prem data to a cloud solution in New Zealand where you host that data or that application, but then connecting it to Australia to leverage the OpenAI capabilities that are there. Because that's where it's available now. We only have OpenAI in certain data center locations for many reasons. But having it based there doesn't mean you can't leverage it. You can host your data and apps locally, but architect in such a way that you can design to use that OpenAI service, which won't impact your latency. Or your performance, I should say, actually, more than latency. So it's important to understand that capability. Once you understand that, then it's all about, again, making sure you've got the foundations set up right to go, not just with security, but overall your cloud foundations. Look at the cloud adoption framework, have a strategy, have a plan, and then work out what are the services you're going to use where, and then design.
So you're cherry picking the best of all pieces, really.
Yeah, that's the idea. And that, I know we've said it a few times, but the somewhat corny line of the world's computer is the point is that you could use those services where they're available, but still hold your data and your applications locally.
Yep. What are you seeing, or we're getting customers coming to us, or your insights and advice around people preparing their infrastructure, their environment, their data estate for AI?
Yeah, I think it goes back to, like I was saying before, right? If we think about that cloud adoption framework, I think it's something that we've taken for granted a little bit. In some conversations, we've reignited the CAF and WAF, so well-architected framework and cloud adoption framework conversation, because we need to make sure that everyone understands that's an iterative journey. You don't just do it once and done, right? You might be using cloud today, but what is your future plan? How do you reevaluate your strategy? Look at your plan, then start to look at your landing zone environment. And so if you want to leverage the AI technology, the first thing we provide guidance on is let's make sure that your landing zone is set up ready for AI use, right? So how does that apply for data, apps? How does security and compliance and governance work? What firewalls we use, for example, networking configurations, etc. Get all that ready to go, which is all, guidance that we provide through Umbrella and to the market, and then build on top of that.
Yeah, it's interesting. New Zealand are early adopters for Azure.
Yep.
And what we're seeing is really three main questions coming from customers. One is always security, right? That is the first thing. The second is the fit for purpose.
Yes.
Is my environment still fit for purpose? Is it CAF and WAF compliant? And then the third thing is the cost optimization.
Yes.
Are we making the most of what we're using? Yep. Have we optimized the spend? So fairly aligned there.
Yeah.
Another question from a customer.
Yes.
What is your feelings, or how is Microsoft working with customers wanting to repatriate their data back to New Zealand?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Like we understand that, organizations may want to bring their data back if they're already using Microsoft Cloud services, whether it's M365 or Azure or Dynamics. I think there's a couple of ways to look at it. Is making sure you're doing it for the right reasons, for innovation, for improved performance. Maybe it's related to bringing the data back to closer to your applications that you're running locally if you need to. But if it's okay where it is, which a lot of government entities are already using, Australia as a location, then save yourself the hassle and cost and just connect the two locations and use the services locally where you want, but use the services in Australia and connect them together. And so I guess it's not so much why would you, it's like just consider the factors, what the work, the time versus performance, and what return on investment you'll get from that. With the likes of M365, as I understand it, I think there is an ability just to flick switch it over. I don't know if that's out yet, but I think that's coming. But like what we did when we opened up Australia, we moved Singapore data data was in Singapore region to the Australian regions, for example.
Yep.
I think you were around when that happened. Yeah. But then, like, obviously, again, if it's to do with, for example, Maori data sovereignty and the story around Te Tumu Paeroa, like I've talked about, and you need to run it locally, then yeah, sure, do it. But I think what we're seeing more so is organizations now using Azure and public cloud services locally because they didn't want to put it into Australia before.
So we've talked about infrastructure being ready for AI. So Microsoft obviously has a comprehensive framework for adopting and planning for AI. Do you want to touch a little bit on your insights there?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I mentioned earlier, we have the three-pronged setting yourself up and testing AI, but a lot of organizations still trying to understand what are the ways we could use AI. It's quite common. We've had conversations recently with a CEO that said, look, I see this AI hype. It's great. I can see something, but I don't understand how I can use it. And so we're educating, all levels of people across the organization on kind of 4 pillars around the AI transformational framework. And the first question I would ask is, for your employees, what is stopping your employees achieving their revenue targets or holding them back with administrative heavy tasks? Like, let's enrich the employee experience and think about what are those factors that are, and those tasks that are just mundane but are heavy. And when we asked that to that CEO, the response was, our procurement process, like when we're going for RFPs and replying for RFPs, it's sucking all my sales team out of selling because they're spending a month to try and pitch for an RFP. Now, when we worked with them further on from that, they went, we can actually help you build a LLM or a large language model to help you with providing that insight and using the likes of Copilot Researcher, which is a great agent within Copilot that will give you all the insight you want within your business in terms of how you can approach that RFP, but also how you would approach getting data about that customer externally. So it pulls it all together and you can ask it to write a full report and insights for you to then help you with your RFP process. So that's one piece. So that's enriching the employee experience.
Yep.
Then you've got the likes of better processes, like how do we improve operational efficiency and better processes? And while, yes, Microsoft is massive, the same applies to anyone, especially if you have a customer that you're servicing, which most people are servicing someone, right? They're providing a service or experience or a product. And so how do you provide the best customer support that is going to reduce your admin heavy tasks? And we've seen that with the likes of Air New Zealand announcing that they're using the customer support model to improve their services and their response rates, and therefore shortening the time when someone is ringing up and going, "Hey, I'm having a problem with my flights," or whatever it might be.
Yep.
And they're able to respond quickly because they're using the agents to provide the information faster as opposed to trying to find it from someone else. And then I think that helps processes, but also then you've got your customer experience, which is kind of ties into the two. And then the fourth one is just that having understood those three parts to it, how do you bend the curve of innovation? Like, how do you shorten the time frame? And I think that's what a lot of people don't quite understand is things that would take you to build innovation may take, let's say, 3 years. And so by using AI, you can use that technology to shorten that time frame, to bend the curve and bring that innovation forward. And that's what we've seen, again, internally at Microsoft. And again, yes, we're a big company, but even if you're a small company, if you use GitHub Copilot, that will help you write the code to help you faster with your developers to develop your solutions faster. And that's how we were able to shorten our innovation. We've released more products in the last 2 years than we did in the previous 5. So that's how the AI can really help that transformation.
You're right. And it applies across large and small.
Yes.
In a nimble business like Umbrella, we've seen the use of AI, again, servicing customers, improving our own internal processes. So working across your different pillars. So great that there's a framework to help people plan around that. When we talk about OpenAI, it's probably the most exciting part of Microsoft. Yeah. What are some of are there any insights you can share of new services? And I remember back to when Azure was so new, there was a new product or a new feature every day. Yeah. It was just so incredibly difficult to keep up. The scale was amazing. Yeah. What's your insights on the OpenAI and some of the new things you think you'll see there?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard actually to really comprehend that, right? Because like I mentioned before, we've brought out so many more services faster and solutions faster than we ever had before. And we keep releasing with OpenAI, or OpenAI keeps releasing, the latest GPT version GPUs that they're going to use or whatever it might be. So it's constantly advancing. And so I think it's almost every month or two that we're seeing a new SKU, a faster SKU, a better performance SKU, even a cheaper SKU that will provide even better performance, better assistance for that transformation. So, it's kind of even mind-blowing for those who are sort of deep in the tech, which I'm not, but it's mind-blowing for me to really understand that it's just so much potential.
Yeah. When you think about it at a national level, what do you think will be the future of innovation in New Zealand, and how is NZ North going to be part of that?
Yeah, I think our innovation in New Zealand has always been there, right? We've got tech innovation. I think from memory, maybe don't quote me, but I think that the impact on GDP is as big as Fonterra now in terms of the ICT industry and how it's expanding and globally going to make that impact. But I think what New Zealand North has done, or the Microsoft cloud services that come with that have done, is it's really opened the conversation up to go, are we cloud ready? Have we considered how to bend that curve of innovation? What strategy do we need to take? Are we set up for success to really maximize that? And what's been really heartwarming is to see the organizations signing up with us, the likes of PGG Wrightson or Technion, which have used AI to help with understanding the impact of sheep poo and the bugs and parasites within the sheep poo. So I don't want to talk about poo too much, but that's
it's incredible.
Cool. It's just cool tech, right? So we've got that Kiwi number 8 wire attitude. It's there. We just need to probably take that step forward. And I think the reason why I say that is I just saw on LinkedIn yesterday, actually, that KPMG and the University of Melbourne brought out a report around the trust attitudes around AI and how you would leverage technology. And Australia is at the bottom. We're second to bottom. India and China are at the top. All right. So we need to build that trust, like I mentioned, adopt the frameworks we talk about, work with organizations like Umbrella to help you understand how you can be secure, compliant, and manage your own data and not lose your data, and know the robots aren't coming to take over, and thinking about how you can bend that curve of innovation, because if we don't, we'll be left behind.
It's super important, right? Like everything is based on trust.
Yep.
And sounds like we've got a lot of work to do if it really is as bad as that. It's that's certainly a challenge going forward.
Sure.
So, Patty, we've known each other for a number of years, and Microsoft has obviously been a key partner for Umbrella. Give us your view on partnering with Umbrella.
It's been great. I mean, I think I started working with Umbrella in the first week of being in the New Zealand Azure role. In fact, I think I presented at an event. Like I'd been in the role 5 minutes. I was going, whoa, okay, so these guys are taking a punt. So I've always loved Umbrella's sort of agile capability and mindset, but with a customer view to it all, which is great for us because it challenges Microsoft in terms of how we think, but then apply that innovation and that support for your customers. And it's really helped us improve our offerings and what we do, and hopefully in turn helping you and your customers.
Right, Patty, we can't have you in the hot seat today and not ask you about NZ North is live. It's delivering for customers.
Yep.
Your main competitor across town, AWS, is launching their data services or their data center later in the year. How do you think the services will compare between the two providers?
Yeah, good question. Put me into a little bit of a corner, but I can't really make comments around other providers. But what I can do is tell you what we are bringing, and I would urge people to understand that and understand what the offerings are and look at it from that perspective. And I guess there's a couple of things, right? So when we open any new data center region, whether it's New Zealand or the large ones we're opening in Asia, for example, then we bring 180 services or more at go live or just after go live, and then we keep adding. Lots of other providers only bring a certain number and a lot less than that, and then stuff comes. So if you want to get the full maximum of using Azure, for example, in a public cloud sense, then compare what services you need locally and what you can't do. Of course, you can do a multi-region design with other providers as well, so that will work. I would then look at, the sheer scale and size. I can't tell you where the data center sites are, but pretty much everyone knows it's the worst kept secret, I think, in New Zealand, let alone Auckland. So compare the site size. Size does matter. And I would also look at the sustainability message. I've mentioned that 100% carbon free, 100% water free, invested into contact energy to bring geothermal power and add another 51 megawatts to the power board for New Zealand. Then think about those factors and actually go, well, okay, these guys have got this. What's everyone else got?
So Paddy's renowned for his nuggets or gold nuggets on specs and numbers. I heard a number that the largest current data center in New Zealand would fit into a single hall of one of the Azure data centers. Is that an urban myth, or is there some fact in that?
There's probably a little bit of fact. It's not so much the physical size of that site, but all those sites compared to our site. It's how we are able to add the processing power within the condensed software-defined networking and infrastructure that we have within our data center sites. So, the amount of megawatts that we're generating from our sites will probably go up to about 30 megawatt, again, less than what we're consuming from contact energy by about 20, but then we'll keep adding. And so each site has several halls, and a hall would be able to be able to deliver what we believe is some of the largest sites outside of our sites capability.
It's incredible. I think the thing for me, one of getting the investment to bring this much compute to New Zealand, I think, all credit to Microsoft New Zealand for that. But I think the fact that they're now the cleanest data centers from an environmental perspective in the world, it fits with our national brand.
That's it.
And if you're a listed company or a government agency reporting on your emissions, then something like this is a game changer for the country and for industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's not to be underestimated. New Zealand North is the greenest data center region we have globally. We have another one in Europe, but it's not quite as good as New Zealand North, because every new one we build is going to be better, right? And more efficient. We talk about power usage and ratios and things like that. It's super, like, the closer we get that number to 1, the more efficient that each site becomes. We open up a new site, we try and get it as low as we can. And I think you mentioned the green story, but actually it was one of the reasons which was really cool that Sachin Nadella, our CEO, wanted to invest in New Zealand, because when we pitched the business case, it was like, well, okay, so super green story, like really help, especially with Microsoft's carbon emission goals, as in get to negative carbon emission goals by 2030, sorry. We're already at carbon neutral. And then also wipe back all of our carbon impact back to 1975, which was 50 years ago this year. So these are all great goals we've got, but we have to improve the performance of our data center regions to be able to counter that. And that's what we're doing. So that was really cool. And then, of course, Satcha just loved the innovative Kiwi number 8 wire attitude, and how we can pretty much build things up with a piece of string or wire and not a lot of money, and watch it innovate and fly.
Hey, it's been a real privilege having you in on our podcast today. Your insights, as usual, are deep and thoughtful, and I think always bring a different angle to things. So thank you for coming in, representing Microsoft, and telling the NZ North story. Yeah,
thanks so much. Really, really enjoyed the chat, and look forward to another 15 years, mate.
Sounds good.